Marcus Aurelius said, "What we do in life echoes through eternity." What is your life echoing through eternity? Welcome to Echoes Through Eternity with Dr. Jeffrey Skinner. Our mission is to inspire, engage, and encourage leaders from across the globe to plant missional churches and be servant leaders. So join us and hear the stories of servant leaders reverberating lives as God echoes them through eternity. Brought to you by Missional Church Planting and Leadership Development and Dynamic Church Planting International.
Welcome into Echoes Through Eternity. I am your host, Dr. Jeffrey D. Skinner. Welcome back to episode 2 of season 4. I believe it's the 62nd or 63rd episode. I lose track. It's somewhere along in there. But as I mentioned in the Easter episode last week, I have written a brand new book. It is entitled Reachable, 7 Keys to Loving, Mentoring, and Leading the Church of the Next Generations. And it is an outline, it's exactly as it says, an outline of how we can go about reaching the next generations. I believe they're reachable. I've done 4 years of research, well, really 3 years. It's based on a dissertation, and then I did an extra year of research as I prepared to write the book, which I've done over the last year. And I know the headlines seem dire when we read Barna and Gallup and the other Christian researchers, that are out there. But based upon my research, I am very encouraged. And so this episode and the next few for this season are going to focus on my book. I just kind of want to give you a little bit of taste there. Remember, you can go to reachablebook.com, reserve your copy, get a 15% discount once it is available for purchase. And so let's just go ahead and delve in and to the episode today. And I just feel like that it's going to help you out and be an encouragement to you. So this is based on the introduction of the book. I just kind of scripted a quick episode here. It's entitled The Deepest Motive for Mission. The deepest motive for mission is simply the desire to be with Jesus where he is, on the frontier between the reign of God and the usurped dominion of the devil. This is a powerful quote from Leslie Newbegin. It sets the stage for our discussion today. It reminds us that the heart of our mission is the call to be where Jesus is, to stand on the front lines of faith. But what shapes us to answer this call? Often it's the influence of those who've mentored us in our faith from a young age. Imagine waiting eagerly for the Snoopy church bus every Sunday, where Ms. Elaine hands out chocolate milk and ding-dongs. This wasn't just a ride to church. It was my journey into a sanctuary of peace and love, a contrast to the chaos at home. And there was Uncle Arthur with his juicy fruit gum, who would stand in the foyer, handing out the gum to every child who would dare ask. And everyone dared ask because Uncle Arthur was a sweet, kind old gentleman. It was a small gesture that spoke volumes about the church's warm embrace that it offered not only to me, but the rest of the children that would be picked up by the Snoopy bus. These experiences, while simple, are profound. They leave indelible marks on hearts, shaping our understanding of Christian community. In my own life, my grandfather was my mentor. And in the beginning, when someone asked me, when I was writing this book, they said, "Who was it that mentored you?" And in the beginning, I really didn't have anybody. I couldn't think of anyone. I was thinking of a leader, a Maxwell, or a venerable pastor, or someone who was just had lots of books to their name. And I couldn't think of anyone like that. But as I began to write the book, it became clear that it was my grandfather that had mentored me into the faith. He didn't do it on purpose necessarily. He just called himself loving me. But there was no other man that I wanted to be around more than my grandfather. He lived in a quaint town, he pastored in a quaint town called Peterson, Alabama. He He lived in a small town not far from there called Holt, Alabama, which is the same place that my church was. But Frank pastored a small little church in the country, had wooden floors, didn't have any stained glass windows. This church was far from modern, yet it was here, amidst the cold drafts and that warmth of the congregation, that a deep passion for the church took root in me. When I spent the night with my grandparents on occasion, he would take me to church with him. Granddaddy Frank's rhymes, his passionate sermons, and his rareback style of worship were more than just quirks. They were expressions of a deep, abiding love for Jesus. His dedication to improving the church with his own hands taught invaluable lessons about service and faith. The concept of thin places is a concept from Gaelic folklore. And thin places were locations that were conducive to spiritual encounters, where the veil between the physical and the spiritual world is thinner. Granddaddy Frank, without ever knowing this ancient concept, created these thin places, though through his unwavering faith and presence. It's a reminder to us all that holiness isn't confined to grand cathedrals. It's present wherever God is invited in. Our mission isn't just about growing the church in numbers. It's about making disciples, about stepping out of our comfort zones into the unknown. It's about lay people, just like those in the old mill towns who saw a need and started churches, often with little more than faith and determination. Today, across the globe, ordinary people continue to answer God's call, planting churches and spreading the gospel. This segment is a call to action for each of us to consider where God is leading us to live fully alive for His glory. As we wrap today's episode, I hope you're inspired by the legacy of those who shaped my faith, like my grandfather, and those at the small country church in Peterson, and my home church of Holton Heights Church of the Nazarene, and in the small town of Holt, Alabama. I ask you to reflect on your own discipleship journey. Who is it that has poured into your life? Who are the people that have marked you for mission? Who is it that you can mark for mission? Who's someone around you that you can pour into now? And you can guide them in this journey to Christ. As we wrap up this episode, I hope that you're inspired by the legacies that shaped me and people like that. Whether it's a grandparent or Sunday school teacher or a kind neighbor, their influence continues to ripple through eternity. So let's take a moment to reflect on our own lives, how we can mentor the next generation, passing on the torch of faith with love, presence, and authenticity. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Echoes Through Eternity. If you're inspired to share the story or want to connect, you can find me at reachablebook.com. This will also sign you up for little pieces of the book to be sent out to you, little challenges. And I've also developed a curriculum that will be going along with this as well as a small group curriculum. And again, stay tuned at reachablebook.com. Thank you. Until next time, may you walk in the dust of the Rabbi, covered in that holy dust together. May we all contemplate whom we may mark for mission. You can be a co-creator with God by helping to echo our voices. Share our episodes with friends and family and on your own social media accounts. Give us positive 5-star reviews. The more positive reviews we have, the more visibility we have, and the more voices that are echoed through eternity. We often invite guests who are serving faithfully year after year, often in anonymity. in their respective roles and ministries. God sees them, and the reality is for a good kingdom leader, that's enough. We do not do what we do for the accolades of humanity. We do it because we're called by God. But I believe that God uses people like you and I to continue those reverberations and echo them throughout eternity. You can partner with God by liking, subscribing, writing a quick positive 5-star review, and again, sharing those voices with friends and family and on your own social media accounts. Those reviews will eventually lead to other guests who have larger platforms that have more listeners who will then in turn listen to the show. And again, it further echoes those voices, which is the whole vision of the Echoes Through Eternity podcast here, is to continue echoing those voices that God is echoing through eternity there.